A man has been blind for 7 long years. One day, while playing around with his daughter, she accidentally pushes him down the stairs. After a sharp jolt of pain, his eyes can suddenly see again. But before he can even feel happy, he notices the family photo on the wall. His wife has her arm around their daughter, standing right next to her late sister's husband. That man's eyes and brows are almost identical to the daughter's. Hearing the noise, his wife rushes over. Her first instinct is to scoop up the girl and check her over. "Mia, are you hurt?" The man frowns, confused. "Is Mia really my biological daughter? She doesn't seem to love me at all." His wife's face changes instantly and she snaps. "What on earth are you talking about?" The man watches her walk away, guilt written all over her back. He turns and dials a number. "Dad, my eyes have healed and my memory is back. I want the Lane Group bankrupt within a week. 7 years ago, this man was in a car accident and lost his sight. His wife told him she was an orphan, with no parents at all. She held him and swore, 'I'll take care of you for the rest of your life.' After the wedding, she worked as a security guard and a designated driver, all just to save money for his eye treatment. She even brewed him medicine every single day, claiming it was a folk remedy from her hometown. When he complained the medicine was bitter, she coaxed him with sugar. 'Just bear with it. A little more of this medicine and you'll be able to see.' She treated him so well, feeding him by hand, tucking him in at night. Everyone said she was a good woman. He believed it too, fully convinced he had married a wife he could depend on. Only today does he learn that she has become one of Seahaven City's most prominent and celebrated businesswomen, and yet he has foolishly believed all along that she was working 3 jobs a day just to pay for his treatment. As he frowns, trying to make sense of this absurdity, the widower beside him speaks up with concern. "Ethan, Sophia said you took a fall. Are you all right?" Ethan turns his head. For the first time, he truly looks at this man, taking him in. He has the look of a devoted husband and a loving father, the kind of man anyone would feel sympathy for. Ethan mimics the way he used to act when he was blind. His eyes go blank as he says, "I'm fine, Jason. It's been 7 years since Eva passed. Haven't you thought about remarrying?" Jason's smile freezes. His handsome face darkens slightly. "I have no intention of remarrying. You can't manage on your own. So I'm staying to take care of the 3 of you." The moment he finishes speaking, Sophia's voice cuts in, sharp with irritation. "Ethan, what exactly do you mean by that? Are you saying you resent Jason living here? He's never once complained about cooking and fetching water for a blind man like you, and you're still not satisfied?" In 7 years of marriage, Sophia has never spoken to Ethan this harshly. Ethan is no fool. He can clearly hear how she's defending Jason, and for a moment he freezes. Sophia sighs and softens her voice. "Ethan, Jason works so hard every day. Don't break his heart." If Ethan couldn't see the impatience written all over her face right now, he might have actually believed her. He presses his lips together, but says nothing to expose her act. After Sophia leaves for work, Jason plans to take Mia out shopping. Their daughter is 6 years old this year. Sophia brought her home after Ethan went blind, claiming she was their daughter. But Mia has never been close to Ethan and refuses to let him touch her. In the past, this used to hurt Ethan. He thought she was ashamed of having a blind father. Now Ethan notices that her face, so strikingly similar to Jason's, is filled with nothing but disgust for him. In a daze, Ethan recalls a neighbor who once hesitated, then warned him, "You really need to keep an eye on your wife, Sophia." Watching them leave, Ethan immediately has Secretary Chen, his father's trusted aide, take a strand of Mia's hair to a private hospital he has invested in for testing. "Tell me the results as soon as possible." "Understood, sir." "And Sophia, I want to know everything about her background. Focus on the adoption records from 6 years ago when I supposedly adopted Mia. Since it's his own hospital, the results come back fast." 2 hours later, Ethan receives an electronic report from Secretary Chen. According to the DNA comparison, the probability that Ethan is Mia's biological father is 0.01%. Even though he braced himself for this, his head still spins. After losing his memory, he couldn't remember a thing. So he had no choice but to put his trust in Sophia, who claimed to be his fiancée. Ethan once longed desperately for the warmth of family, but reality has struck him hard. The happiness he thought he had was nothing but an illusion. It's like an old folktale, where a man hides away a celestial maiden's wings, trapping her on Earth and forcing her to bear his children. And just like that, Sophia took advantage of Ethan's amnesia to deceive him, stealing 7 years of his life, and tearing him apart from his own flesh and blood. Where could the child Ethan had longed for possibly be? Meanwhile, his father's secretary sends Ethan another encrypted message. The adoption records show that the baby girl Sophia brought home back then was healthy and adorable, yet no newborn photos can be found anywhere. Even stranger, the doctor who handled Ethan's adoption paperwork back then suddenly emigrated overseas 2 years ago. Every clue seems to point in the same direction. At dinner, Jason gently strokes Mia's hair and says, "I took Mia to try out that international preschool today. The environment is great. Just a bit pricey." Sophia gazes intently at Jason. "Money isn't an issue. Whatever you choose will be right." Jason raises his wine glass and takes a sip, then leans in toward Sophia, and the two of them kiss. Mia watches happily and even sticks her tongue out at Ethan. Ethan digs his nails into his own thigh just to fight back the wave of disgust rising in him. In their eyes, Ethan is nothing but a pathetic fool who can't even notice his wife flirting with the widower right in front of him. They're so brazen they don't even bother to hide it. After a while of intimacy, Jason goes to put Mia to bed, and only then does Sophia finally remember Ethan. "Are you tired, Ethan? Let me help you to bed." Her voice is gentle and warm, as if that steamy scene never happened. When they lie down, she turns her back to him. So this is how it has been for 7 years, sharing a bed while living completely different lives. Ethan waits patiently. Sophia's breathing slows and steadies. Only then does Ethan quietly open his eyes. Carefully, cautiously, he picks up her phone. The passcode is 4 digits. Ethan tries entering Jason's birthday. The screen unlocks. Instantly. The wallpaper that greets him is a photo of Sophia and Jason together, against a backdrop of blue sea and sky. Jason is beaming, his smile bright and radiant, and the adoration in Sophia's eyes seems to spill right off the screen. Ethan's hand trembles uncontrollably as he holds the phone. He opens her messaging app. There's only one pinned chat at the top, labeled with nothing but a moon symbol. "The girl's asleep. Tonight was so thrilling. Your husband still hasn't noticed a thing." What could a blind man possibly notice? Keep giving him the medicine on schedule. The doctor says the longer he takes it, the foggier his mind gets. Scrolling up, the chat history goes on and on. "He asked me again today why I won't remarry. You should have just run him over and killed him from the start. Just hold on a little longer. The insurance policy I bought him hasn't matured yet. He's just a blind man with no family of his own. If something happens to him, it'll be easy to explain away." Ethan's breath catches. The person behind the car accident that left him blind and amnesiac all those years ago was Sophia herself. His real daughter's whereabouts remain unknown. The child he has cherished for 7 years turns out to be the daughter of his wife and her lover, and they're still scheming to make his death look like an accident. From start to finish, Ethan has been nothing but a puppet, a joke played at his own expense. A cold, venomous hatred coils around his heart like a snake. With trembling hands, Ethan forwards every message and photo to his own phone, then carefully deletes the trace of the transfer. He places the phone back exactly where it was and lies back down. Ethan keeps his eyes open until dawn breaks. He texts his secretary, urging him, "I need you to look into one more person. I want Jason's hospital visit records." Having not slept all night, Ethan's temples throb with a dull ache. The house is empty now, except for Ethan. Ethan has Secretary Chen drive him to the top floor of the Lane Group building. The elevator doors slide open. At the end of a thickly carpeted hallway, a door bears a sign reading CEO's office. The secretarial offices are all on the floors below. It seems Sophia doesn't like to be disturbed. Through the gap in the door, Ethan sees clothes scattered carelessly across the expensive carpet. Jason and Sophia are wrapped in each other's arms. "Sophia, I can never be your rightful husband. Seeing Ethan every day breaks my heart, and I have to pretend to be kind to him." Sophia's voice drips with desire. "Jason, you're the only one I love. Isn't this kind of forbidden thrill even more exciting?" Before she even finishes, she pulls him into another kiss. Ethan watches, stunned. On the way back, his secretary hands him 3 files. "Sir, our hacker dug up everything you asked for. One report shows the Lane family was on the verge of bankruptcy 7 years ago, but shortly after Ethan's accident left him blind and hospitalized. A massive sum of money suddenly landed in Sophia's personal account, originating from an overseas auction. The item sold was a Han Dynasty jade pendant carved with a dragon and phoenix design. The instant Ethan sees the photo, his expression turns dark. That pendant was a gift from his father. He had worn it close to his chest since childhood. 7 years ago, when Ethan woke up from the crash, Sophia tricked him into handing the pendant over to her for safekeeping. She secretly sold it for $200 million, using the money to save her company from collapse. The second file covers Jason's background. He and Sophia were each other's first love, but a single argument tore them apart in a fit of pride. Jason then turned around and accepted the affections of Sophia's older sister Eva, marrying her quickly. Not long after, though, he and Sophia found their way back to each other. Eva, while driving their parents along a mountain road, lost control of the car, and the vehicle plunged off the road, killing everyone inside. Yet Jason has firmly refused to remarry ever since, calling it loyalty to his dead wife. Last in the file are 2 birth certificates. Jason's daughter and Ethan's child were born in the very same hospital, yet a full year apart. At some point, Jason abandoned a baby at the gates of an orphanage. Ethan draws in a deep breath, forcing down the metallic taste of fury rising in his throat. Sophia sold off his father's heirloom and stole 7 years of his life. Jason threw away his own child and is now plotting to take Ethan's life as well. It's time their good days came to an end. Right then, his father calls. "Ethan, we've gathered all the evidence of 7 years of tax evasion at the Lane Group. When do you want to move?" Ethan falls silent for a few seconds, then says coldly, "Now." Sophia will probably never realize that the blind husband she has manipulated and humiliated all these years is none other than the only son of Richard Hale, Sea Haven City's richest man. Destroying her would be as easy as crushing an ant. Ethan quickly traces the orphanage that took in the abandoned baby. Secretary Chen makes the trip in person, but the news he brings back plunges Ethan into despair. "Sir, 6 winters ago, a baby girl really was left at the gates with a note pinned to her, but after she was adopted at age 3 by a couple from another province, there's no record of her after that." Ethan presses anxiously. "Can we trace the adoptive parents?" Secretary Chen shakes his head. Record keeping at the orphanage was sloppy back then. The information left on file about the adoptive couple is vague at best. The ID address they gave was fake, and the phone number has long been disconnected. We're following every scrap of the limited leads left behind, but that couple has simply vanished without a trace. Ethan's biological daughter, frail and weak, had been abandoned at the orphanage gates on a freezing winter day, and after being adopted, she vanished without a word, her fate unknown. With every passing thought, the hatred in Ethan's heart grows deeper. They tore him apart from his own flesh and blood, leaving his daughter's fate hanging in uncertainty. Ethan vows that this pair of vile schemers will pay for it 1,000 times over. A few days later, Sophia suggests taking Ethan out to relax. She proposes a trip to a newly opened resort on the outskirts of the city. Jason chimes in warmly, but a flicker of anticipation and malice crosses his eyes. Ethan understands. They can no longer wait. Under pressure from his father, the Lane Group has recently lost several major projects. Sophia desperately needs cash to keep the company afloat, and Ethan's insurance payout would be enough to buy her some time. But what they don't know is that Jason has already grown suspicious of Ethan. 2 days before the trip, Ethan returns home with a faint scent of gardenias clinging to his clothes. While handing him a glass of water, Jason suddenly leans in and sniffs at him. He says nothing, but his gaze lingers on Ethan for a long moment. For the next 2 days, Jason turns unusually attentive, fetching tea and water, never leaving Ethan's side. Sensing that he's being watched, Ethan plays his part even more carefully, feeling along the wall as he walks, deliberately spilling water as he pours it, even staging a fall right in front of him. Only then does Jason's suspicion finally ease. But on the morning they're set to leave, Ethan overhears Jason on the phone in the kitchen. Jason's voice, low and urgent, slips through the gap in the door. "Triple the dose. Make sure he's completely unconscious within 2 hours." After hanging up, Jason walks out carrying a glass of fresh juice, smiling gently. "Ethan, have some juice. I just squeezed it myself, added a bit of honey. Just the way you like it." Ethan takes the cup. "Thanks." The instant Jason turns away, a cold smirk flickers across his lips. Once he's far enough, Ethan pours the juice straight down the sink. On the day of the trip, Mia runs around excitedly, with Jason staying close by her side, while Sophia seems oddly distracted. She takes several urgent calls from the company, her expression growing darker each time. At noon, they have lunch at a lakeside restaurant in the resort. Jason, ever the concerned friend, pours Ethan another glass of juice. "Ethan, drink this. Fresh juice." Ethan pretends to drink a few sips, none the wiser, but secretly spits every mouthful into a handkerchief tucked in his sleeve. Soon, he lets his eyes go unfocused and hazy and says weakly, "Sophia, I feel dizzy. I think I might be sick." Jason immediately steps in to support him. "Ethan, are you tired? Let me help you to a guest room to rest." Sophia adds gently, "Jason, go with him. I'll watch Mia." Jason guides Ethan toward the artificial lake behind the restaurant. The view there is lovely, and barely anyone is around. A satisfied smirk tugs at the corner of his mouth. He guides Ethan toward the railing. "Ethan, this lake view is gorgeous. Such a shame you can't see it." His hand quietly tenses, ready to shove Ethan over the railing. Right at that moment, a young man with a selfie stick comes dashing up, shouting excitedly, "Guys, check out this view, it's insane. Smash that like button." Not looking where he's going, he crashes straight into Jason. Jason yelps, stumbling and nearly falling over the railing himself. The young man scrambles to apologize. "Sorry, I didn't see anyone back here. Are you okay?" Flustered, the young man rushes to steady Ethan instead. Jason's face turns livid, his plan has fallen apart, but he doesn't dare make a scene. He swallows his rage and forces out, "My friend isn't feeling well, I'm taking him to rest." The enthusiastic young man, without a second thought, takes hold of Ethan's other arm. "I'll help you," he says, leading Ethan along. Jason, caught completely off guard, watches his plan fall apart entirely. He glares furiously at the boy, but there's nothing he can do. Back in the guest room, Jason stares daggers at Ethan for a long, tense moment, before finally grinding his teeth and stalking off. Sophia arrives shortly after, frowning. "What happened?" she asks Jason. He can barely hide his frustration. "Someone just showed up out of nowhere and ruined everything." Just as Sophia starts to respond, an urgent call comes in from her assistant. "Ms. Lane, this is bad. The tax authorities and business regulators just showed up for an inspection, and the bank just called too, saying our loan is up for early review." At this, Sophia's face drains of color. Beside her, Jason's heart is pounding just as hard. Ethan lowers his head to hide the mocking curl of his lips. This is only the appetizer. The moment the call ends, a notification chimes on Sophia's private email. Irritated, she opens it, and the second she sees what's inside, her hand nearly drops the phone. Inside the email are several photos, unmistakably showing her and Jason tangled together in the CEO's office. The message contains only one chilling line: "The game has begun. Did you enjoy the gift?" A cold sweat instantly soaks through Sophia's back. She drags Jason out to the terrace. She demands in a hushed voice, "Did you cross someone?" Jason freezes at her tone, leaning over to see the photos. His face goes pale too. "What are you talking about? Who did this?" Sophia's eyes blaze with fury. "The company just got hit with trouble, and now these photos show up. Is this because of those gambling lowlifes you call family?" Jason snaps back. "Sophia, don't you dare accuse me like that. I'd say you've made far too many enemies yourself." The two of them hurl blame back and forth. Once a seed of suspicion is planted, it takes root and grows fast. Listening to their accusations fly back and forth, Ethan can't help feeling pure contempt. If he had never lost his memory, how could he ever have fallen for a woman as detestable as Sophia? Sophia cuts the trip short. For the next few days at home, Ethan stays in his room, claiming he's unwell and needs rest. Sophia is consumed with handling the company's mounting troubles, while Jason pours all his attention into Mia. Neither has much energy left to spare for Ethan. Meanwhile, the private investigator his father hired on the dark web finally tracks down his real daughter's whereabouts. The couple who adopted her turned out to be criminals. They threatened and abused the little girl, beating her until her body was covered in bruises. Fortunately, the couple was arrested by police not long after taking her, and the girl was sent to Grace Welfare Home. Ethan has Secretary Chen arrange a visit to the orphanage under the name of the Hale Group's charitable foundation. The orphanage is old and bare bones, but reasonably clean. The director, a kindly old woman, warmly gives Ethan a tour. Children play in the courtyard, shying away nervously at the sight of a stranger. Ethan's gaze sweeps anxiously over every little girl's face, searching for any trace of familiarity but finds none. Just as his heart begins to sink, the director points to a small figure quietly stacking blocks in the corner. That's Lucy. She's been here almost 3 years now. She doesn't talk much. The child is unusually thin and frail, her clothes hanging loosely off her. Her back is turned to Ethan, completely indifferent to the noise around her. Ethan's breath catches, his chest tightening in an instant. As if sensing his gaze, the girl slowly turns her head. Her face is deathly pale, and her eyes look almost exactly like his own. Yet her vacant eyes carry a wary edge. "Lucy, come say hello to this gentleman." The child hesitates, then slowly walks over. Her wrist peeks out from a sleeve that's slightly too short, revealing a small, dark red birthmark on the inside of her thin right wrist. Ethan's father once told him this very mark runs in their family, skipping generations. Blood rushes to his head. He musters every ounce of will to tear his eyes away. Lucy, seemingly frightened by his stare, shrinks back slightly. Only then does he snap back to himself, exhaling a heavy breath. He can't frighten her, and he definitely can't reveal who he is now. It's not safe here. "She's a quiet one," the director says with a sigh. "Lucy hasn't had it easy. She was already sickly when she came to us. Shows some signs of autism, doesn't mix well with the other kids, but she's well behaved. Never causes trouble." Ethan asks a few more simple questions about her condition, then rushes back before Sophia returns home. Once inside the car, Ethan's whole body trembles. Finding his daughter is only the first step. Now he's going to make them taste true despair. Ethan arranges for a private doctor to examine her. When he sees the full medical report, his heart shatters. Her weight is far below average for her age. Her development is delayed. She's malnourished. There are multiple old, healed fractures, and mild signs of autism. Attached are several photos of old injuries, and though they have healed by now, the faded bruises are still horrifying to look at. His precious daughter, the one he longed for with all his heart, didn't die, but she's been living through hell. How did she survive these past 6 years? Ethan bites down hard on his lip, refusing to let a single sob escape, but the tears won't stop, falling one after another onto the report. After he finally breaks down and weeps, Ethan acts immediately. He instructs Secretary Chen to take Lucy out of Grace Welfare Home under the name of the foundation and settle her in one of his private villas. He hires a full-time nanny just for her and brings in top child psychologists and trauma therapists from overseas. Every day, Ethan sneaks away from Sophia and Jason to visit his daughter. At first, she stays curled up in a corner of the room, refusing to let anyone close. She waits a long time after everyone leaves before devouring the food they bring her. Ethan sits quietly nearby, letting her slowly grow used to his presence. He reads picture books to her in a soft voice, and brings little dolls that girls her age tend to love, leaving them where she can see them. Looking into her eyes, Ethan has wanted countless times to rush over and pull her into a tight embrace, to tell her, "Daddy's here. Daddy is so sorry." But he forces himself to hold back, unwilling to shatter the small sense of safety she's only just begun to build. On the third day, the therapist pulls Ethan aside into the hallway. Her voice lowers, her expression grave. "Mr. Hale, her condition is more serious than I expected. She's not unable to speak, she's afraid to. In that adoptive family, speaking up meant being noticed, and being noticed meant getting beaten. So she learned to make herself disappear." Ethan's nails dig into his palms. The therapist continues. "She also has severe food hoarding behavior. She hides bread under her pillow, stuffs crackers into her socks, which tells me she's been deprived of food for a long, long time. She doesn't believe the next meal is guaranteed, and her sleep is terrible. She startles awake almost every night, curling up trembling in the corner of her bed." Ethan asks how those old fractures came to be. The therapist pauses, then says, "Based on the location and healing stage, the breaks in her arm and ribs happened at different times. The earliest one was around when she was 3 years old, right around when she was first adopted. 3 years old. An age when other children are still curled up in their parents' arms, being doted on. Instead, his daughter was being beaten." Ethan grips the wall just to keep himself from collapsing. That night, he doesn't leave. He stays in a guest room at the villa. At 2 in the morning, the nanny knocks softly, saying the girl has woken up again. He rushes to her side. He finds her curled in the corner of the bed, her body shrunk into a tiny ball. Eyes wide open, lips drained of color, like a small animal cornered by a hunter with nowhere left to run. Ethan slowly sits down beside the bed, not touching her, just whispering, "Daddy's here. Don't be afraid." She stares at him for a long, long moment, and then suddenly speaks. Her voice is thin and fragile as a thread about to snap. "Don't hit me!" The words pierce Ethan's heart like a needle. His eyes burn instantly with tears, but he fights with everything he has not to let them fall. Ethan knows the last thing she needs right now is to watch an adult fall apart. He steadies his trembling voice and says, No one is going to hit you. Daddy promises, no one will ever hit you again. She doesn't respond, but her body slowly begins to relax, her curled-up posture loosening just a little. After a long while, her breathing settles back into a steady rhythm. Ethan sits perfectly still beside her bed until morning light filters through the curtains. The next day, the therapist tells Ethan, "Last night was a critical breakthrough. Lucy was willing to speak in your presence. That means her subconscious has started to accept you. But this process can't be rushed. Any sudden overwhelming display of emotion could make her shut down all over again." Ethan nods, though his mind is already elsewhere, thinking, "Jason, you abandoned my 3-month-old daughter at an orphanage gate in the dead of winter. You let her fall into the hands of human traffickers. To be beaten, starved, and tormented for 6 straight years. I will make you spend the rest of your life paying for this." A few more days pass, and small changes begin to show in Lucy. She no longer hides food under her pillow, though she still eats quickly, as if afraid someone might snatch her food away. She is at least willing to eat in front of Ethan now. One day, while Ethan reads her a picture book, they reach a part about a little rabbit hiding in its burrow, too scared to come out. She suddenly whispers, "I won't cry anymore." Ethan freezes. The words aren't meant for him at all. They sound more like something she has told herself over and over, countless times. In that house without a single ray of light. She must have repeated this to herself again and again. Don't cry, crying gets you hit, don't cry, just hold on and it'll pass. Ethan closes the book, walks to the bathroom and shuts the door behind him. He crouches on the floor covering his mouth, sobbing in complete silence. When he's done, he washes his face, walks back out, sits down beside her again, and continues reading the next page. His voice stays steady, but his hands never stop shaking. While Ethan pours everything into rebuilding his bond with his daughter, the outside world has already been turned upside down. Business headlines break the news first. The Lane Group is suspected of massive tax evasion, and major outlets expose years of falsified financial reports. Overnight, Lane Group's stock price collapses, and business partners begin pulling out of contracts. The business empire Sophia worked so hard to build is crumbling, visibly, by the hour. Police officially step in, marching straight into the Lane Group headquarters and taking Sophia into custody. The news reaches home. Jason panics. He tears through the house, searching everywhere, trying to find the cash and jewelry he'd stashed away, ready to flee with Mia. But he discovers every valuable in the house is already gone, and the bank cards have all been frozen. With trembling hands, he dials every friend of Sophia's he can think of, but every line is either dead or hangs up the second it connects. After 2 days in detention, Sophia is granted temporary bail. By the time she returns home, none of her old radiant confidence remains. Her hair is disheveled, her eyes sunken, and she looks like she's aged 10 years overnight. The house is in chaos. Jason is yelling at Mia, who bursts into terrified sobs. "Sophia, what are we supposed to do? All our money is gone." Sophia shoves him away, snapping, "Shut up, how would I know? None of this makes any sense. I keep wondering if this is some kind of punishment for what we did to my sister and our parents. Jason, I cannot go to prison. At least out here I still have a chance to rebuild." Jason cuts her off sharply. "Staging that accident for the insurance payout was your plan to begin with. And now that it's all falling apart, you want to pin it on me? I'm telling you right now, if we go down together." The two of them tear into each other in the living room, their faces twisted with rage. In the days that follow, Sophia is buried under the company's mounting crises, frantic and overwhelmed, while Jason throws all his attention into Mia. Neither of them has much energy left to spare for Ethan. But Ethan has underestimated Jason. That day, after Sophia leaves the house, Jason doesn't tend to Mia as he usually does. Instead, he sits motionless on the living room sofa, staring at the frozen bank account on his phone screen, his nails digging deep grooves into the sofa's armrest. Mia comes running downstairs and tugs at his sleeve, muttering, "Daddy, that blind man isn't home again. He's been sneaking out a lot lately." Jason's unfocused gaze suddenly sharpens. He looks down at Mia, his tone far too serious for a 6-year-old. "How do you know he's been going out?" "I heard the car. He always leaves in the afternoon and comes back really late." Jason says nothing more, but something shifts behind his eyes. Behind the door, Ethan hears every word clearly and his chest tightens. Mia has been quietly watching Ethan all this time, and he has overlooked just how sharp a 6-year-old's eyes can be. That afternoon, Ethan heads out as usual to visit Lucy. Secretary Chen's car waits at the end of the alley to pick him up. Once inside, Ethan glances back out of habit. A dark gray van is parked at the mouth of the alley, its windows tinted so dark he can't tell if anyone's inside. Ethan frowns and texts Secretary Chen, "Get me that van's license plate." The reply comes quickly. "Sir, found it. The vehicle belongs to a private investigation firm, and it's shown up near this alley twice in the last 3 days. Ethan's blood runs cold. Jason is already tailing him. Ethan makes an instant decision. He doesn't head to Lucy's villa. Instead, he has Secretary Chen take 3 different detours to shake off the van entirely. Then he calls the head of security at the villa. "Raise the security level to maximum, effective immediately. Re-verify everyone coming in or out. Activate every door and window sensor. There must be someone stationed outside Lucy's room around the clock." "Understood, sir." Ethan then calls Secretary Chen again. "Can we get our hands on Jason's call records? The tech team is cracking it now. We should have it by tonight." Ethan hangs up and leans back, eyes closed, his temples pounding. If Jason has already found the villa's location, Lucy could be in danger at any moment. He can't afford to wait any longer. but he is already too late. That night, at 1 in the morning, Ethan is jolted awake by his phone vibrating. The screen shows a call from the nanny at the villa. The moment he answers, what greets him isn't her voice at all, but the shrill blare of the security alarm. The nanny's voice trembles. "Sir, someone climbed over the wall. Security has them blocked, but they're very close to Lucy's room." Ethan launches himself out of bed, blood roaring in his ears. In that instant, nothing else matters. He grabs his coat and bolts out the door. The hallway is pitch dark. Ethan crashes into the shoe rack by the entrance, knocking it over, sending a loud crash through the house. Behind him, Sophia's groggy voice calls out, "What's going on?" Ethan ignores her completely, sprinting downstairs and flagging down a taxi. He rattles off the villa's address to the driver, his voice shaking so badly he can barely form the words. The 20-minute drive feels like 20 agonizing years. By the time Ethan arrives, 2 security vehicles sit parked outside, every light in the living room blazing. The head of security rushes to meet him. "Sir, we've got them under control. 3 intruders total. 1 was waiting outside the wall as backup, and we caught the other 2 climbing over in the second-floor hallway, less than 5 meters from Lucy's room." 5 meters. Ethan's knees nearly buckle. Secretary Chen catches him before he falls. Gritting his teeth, Ethan steadies himself and demands, "Where are they?" The head of security leads Ethan to a makeshift holding room set up in the garage. 3 men sit bound to chairs, hands tied behind their backs. Dressed in dark clothing, their black ski masks already pulled off. The oldest of the 3, his face thick with rough, hardened features, shows no fear at all when Ethan walks in. He even smirks. "I think you've got the wrong guys. We just got drunk and climbed over the wrong wall." Secretary Chen coldly slams a phone down in front of him. On the screen is a call log between him and Jason. The most recent call was just 2 hours ago, lasting 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The man's smirk freezes on his face. "How much did Jason pay you?" He stays silent. Secretary Chen signals to the head of security, who takes 1 step forward. The man caves instantly. "A lot. 500,000. He told us all we had to do was grab the kid upstairs. Bring her to the dock. Someone would be waiting there. To get her out of Sea Haven City." Every drop of blood in Ethan's body rushes straight to his head. Jason wanted to take Lucy away, smuggle her out of the city entirely, just like he abandoned her at the orphanage when she was 3 months old, 6 years ago. Only this time he wanted to erase her completely from Ethan's life, for good. He meant to use her as leverage, to force Ethan into submission. "Secretary Chen, call the police." "Already done, they'll be here in 15 minutes. Ethan turns and races upstairs, his footsteps quickening with every step. As he pushes open Lucy's bedroom door, the sight before him grips his heart like a fist. Lucy is curled up in the corner of her bed, locked in the exact same position he first found her in back at the orphanage. Her entire body is folded into a tiny, tight ball, the blanket pulled all the way over her head, her exposed fingers white at the knuckles. She is shaking, violently, silently. The nanny stands by helplessly. "She woke up the second the alarm went off, and nothing I do can calm her down. The moment I touch her, she flinches away." Ethan crouches beside the bed without touching her at all, dropping his voice to the gentlest whisper he can manage. "Lucy, it's Daddy. The bad men have already been caught. They can't get in." There is no response from under the blanket. Only her breathing, growing faster and faster on the edge of hyperventilating. Ethan dares not say another word. Any sound at all might frighten her further. So he stays crouched beside her bed, perfectly still, listening as her ragged breathing slowly shifts into short, choking sobs, and then, gradually, into a strained, suppressed silence. A long time passes, maybe half an hour, maybe a full hour. Her fingers slowly loosen their grip on the edge of the blanket, and it slips down just enough to reveal half of her pale little face. Her eyes are red and swollen, but there are no tears left. Just a hollow stare fixed on Ethan, a look he knows he will never forget for the rest of his life. It isn't the look of a child looking at her father. It's the look of prey checking whether the hunter is still nearby. The therapist's words pierce his mind like a needle. Speaking up meant being noticed. Being noticed meant getting beaten. So she learned to make herself disappear. Ethan's tears finally break free, but he fights desperately to make no sound at all. He cannot fall apart. Lucy doesn't need a man who weeps. She needs to feel safe. Slowly, Ethan extends his hand, palm open, resting it on the edge of the bed. He doesn't grab her, doesn't touch her at all. He simply leaves it there, letting her decide for herself whether to reach for it. The minutes tick by. Downstairs, the sounds of police arriving drift up. Voices, footsteps, car doors opening and closing. The noise makes Lucy's body tense up again for a moment, and then she does something that breaks Ethan's heart and mends it all at once. Slowly, she inches her small hand toward his, her fingertips brushing his palm, then pulling back. She touches it again, and finally rests her hand gently on top of his. Ethan closes his fingers around it, holding her with the lightest, most careful touch, as if cupping a butterfly that might take flight at the slightest pressure. By the time dawn breaks, Lucy has finally drifted off to sleep, her hand never once letting go of his. Ethan sits in that same position the entire night, until his arm goes completely numb. Secretary Chen waits in the hallway. Ethan steps out of the room, closing the door softly behind him. Secretary Chen reports in a low voice, "Sir, all 3 men have been handed over to the police. All 3 confirmed it was Jason who hired them, and the tech team finished cracking his phone records. He had the villa's address 3 days ago." Ethan leans against the hallway wall, closing his eyes for a moment. How did he find it? The private investigation firm he hired tailed your car for 2 days. On the very first day, they recorded your entire route to the villa. That was our oversight. Ethan doesn't blame him. He simply underestimated just how far Jason's desperation would push him. A man cornered with nothing left to lose is capable of anything. The villa isn't safe anymore. Move Lucy to one of the Hale family's private estates by the end of today. Double the security team. Also, tell the lawyers to compile every piece of evidence on Jason's attempted kidnapping and add it to the Lane Group case file. Secretary Chen nods. Ethan glances back at the closed door behind him. The fragile sense of safety Lucy had just begun to build, shattered by Jason in a single night. The therapist had said trust takes months, even years to form, but only one night to destroy. Ethan draws in a slow, deep breath. His fingers clench, then release. Crescent-shaped marks from his own nails are pressed deep into his palm. Jason, you couldn't even spare a 6-year-old child. Then don't blame me for sealing off your last way out. Ethan leans back against the door, finally allowing himself a brief moment to tremble. Then he picks up his phone and texts the therapist. Lucy was badly frightened. Her condition has regressed significantly. Please come as soon as you can. The therapist replies almost immediately. I'm on my way, Mr. Hale. This kind of regression is common in traumatized children. Don't blame yourself. The fact that she held your hand means the foundation of trust is still there. It just needs more time. More time. Lucy has already waited 6 years. She shouldn't have to wait a single day longer. It is Ethan who failed to protect her. He sets the phone down, watching the sun climb higher outside the window, only one thought in his mind. It's time to close the net. No more chances. He dials his father's number, and the call connects almost instantly. His father's voice comes through, steady and firm. Ethan, is everything ready? Ethan's voice is cold, carrying an unshakable resolve. Dad, have the legal team prepare every document, the asset freeze order against the Lane Group, the full chain of tax evasion evidence, the insurance fraud charges, and the attempted murder case file. Package it all together. I'll also need a security team in place today. His father falls silent for 2 seconds. Are you sure you want to handle this in person? I can have legal handle everything. You wouldn't need to show up at all. I want to look them in the eye. Some debts need to be settled face to face. A sigh comes through the line. His father doesn't try to talk him out of it. He knows exactly what his son has endured these past 7 years. He also understands that if Ethan doesn't get to release this himself, it will haunt him for the rest of his life. All right. I'll have Secretary Chen coordinate with the legal team. They'll be at your location by 2 this afternoon, and the security team will be in place within the hour. His father pauses, then adds, As for Lucy, I've already had the east wing of the old Hale family estate prepared. The medical team is on standby. Bring her there to stay. It's safe there. The call ends. Ethan turns and pushes open the door to Lucy's room. She's still asleep, her curled-up posture a little looser than before, though her brow remains furrowed tight, as if even in her dreams she can't escape the fear. The nanny sits in a chair by the bed, having not slept a single moment all night. When she sees Ethan enter, she nods to him silently. He walks over and crouches beside the bed, gazing at his daughter's pale little face. Her lashes are long, like 2 tiny fans fluttering ever so slightly. Ethan reaches out, his hand hovering just above her hair. But in the end, he doesn't let it fall, afraid of waking her. So he simply stays crouched there, until sunlight slips in through a gap in the curtains, landing on the back of Lucy's hand, a thin beam but bright, like a delicate golden thread gently pulling her out of the darkness. Lucy's eyes slowly open. At first, she stares blankly at the ceiling, then her gaze drifts slowly until it settles on Ethan's face. This time, she doesn't flinch or pull away. She simply watches him quietly, as if checking whether the person in front of her is real. Good morning, Lucy. It's a beautiful day today. The sun is finally out. Lucy says nothing, but her small hand slips out from under the blanket, her fingertips brushing against his hand resting on the bed's edge, once, twice, then settling gently on top of it. Ethan's eyes sting with sudden heat, but he holds it back. He cannot cry, not in front of her. The nanny brings in breakfast, warm milk and soft, well-cooked porridge. Lucy sits up and takes the bowl, sipping it in small, careful mouthfuls, slower than she has in the past few days. It's a small but real sign of progress. At least she's no longer gulping it down like before, as if someone might snatch it away the very next second. Ethan sits across from her, picking up his own bowl of porridge and eating slowly. He doesn't make a point of watching her, just keeps her company, letting her grow accustomed to having someone nearby who poses no threat at all. After breakfast, the therapist arrives right on schedule. Ethan hands Lucy over to her care and walks to the end of the hallway, dialing Secretary Chen. How are things coming along? Sir, the company should have received the bank's demand notice early this morning. Jason has been home with Mia, hasn't gone out at all. Also, regarding the private investigation firm you asked me to look into, we've pulled their complete transaction records. Jason paid them $120,000 total, split across 3 transfers. The last one was sent the day before yesterday. The evidence has been secured and handed over to the lawyers. It's all been taken care of. One more thing. There's progress on Dr. Foster. He's been detained by local police in a small Southeast Asian country. The extradition process is already underway, and he's expected to be returned to the country within a week. Ethan's fingers tighten slightly. Dr. Foster was the physician who handled Sophia's adoption paperwork all those years ago, and also Sophia's inside contact planted at the hospital. This man knows the entire truth. How Lucy was swapped out in the first place. How Mia was brought in to replace her, and exactly who prescribed the drugs that kept fogging Ethan's mind. Make sure he comes back alive. I want him to confess everything in his own words in court. Understood. After hanging up, Ethan returns to Lucy's room. The therapist is sitting with her, helping her draw. Lucy holds a crayon, sketching some uneven shapes onto the paper. Ethan steps closer for a look, and sees that she's drawn a circle, with a tiny dot inside it. What did you draw, Lucy? She glances up at him, then drops her eyes back to the page. A few seconds pass before she says in that voice as thin as a thread, "It's home." In that instant, something slams hard against Ethan's chest. He draws in a deep breath, forcing down the surge of emotion, and says softly, "That's beautiful. Someday Daddy will show you a real home, even bigger than this one." Lucy doesn't respond, but she hands the crayon to Ethan, pointing to a blank spot on the paper. He takes the crayon and draws a slightly bigger circle right next to hers, the two circles sitting side by side, like two stars drawing close together. Lucy stares at the two circles for a long moment, then lifts her gaze to look at Ethan, and for the first time, there's something in her eyes that Ethan can't quite name. It isn't fear. It isn't guardedness. It's more like a careful, tentative reaching out, a snail poking its tiny feelers out from its shell, unsure whether the world outside is safe. Ethan smiles at her gently, saying nothing more. He simply folds up the drawing carefully and tucks it into his chest pocket. "Daddy will keep this safe for you." He doesn't say anything like, "I'll give it back when you're older," because he isn't sure she'd understand. He wants her to know, more than anything, that he will take good care of the things that belong to her, just as he will take good care of her. Close to noon, the head of security knocks on the door. Ethan steps out and finds 6 young men in black uniforms standing in the hallway, every one of them rigid-postured and sharp-eyed. "Sir, the security team Mr. Hale arranged has arrived. They're all former special forces. They've all signed confidentiality agreements." He points to a tall man at the front of the group. "This is the team leader, Derek. He'll be responsible for Lucy's safety going forward. Mr. Hale will be running rotating shifts around the clock. The perimeter is already secured. Every entry point now has facial recognition and infrared sensors installed. Lucy's bedroom will be placed in the most secure part of the building, with reinforced blast-proof windows and 2 guards stationed outside her door at all times." Ethan looks over the team, and a small measure of calm settles over him. But he knows that even the tightest security can't guard against every danger. The only real solution is to eliminate the threat at its root. "This afternoon I'm heading back to that house. Half of you stay here. The other half come with me." Ethan walks into the room and crouches in front of Lucy, who is playing with a plush rabbit, bought for her by the nanny just yesterday. "Lucy, Daddy needs to go take care of something. I'll be back this afternoon. Why don't you stay here and play with your nanny? Is that okay?" Lucy hugs the rabbit, watching him silently. Ethan expects her to stay quiet as always, but instead, she suddenly reaches out and grabs the hem of his shirt, gripping it so tightly her knuckles go white. Ethan's heart twists painfully. She's afraid. Afraid that if he leaves, he won't come back, just like everyone else who ever vanished from her life. None of them ever came back. "Daddy promises he'll come back." Ethan holds out his pinky finger. "Let's pinky promise." Lucy stares at his finger for a few seconds, then slowly extends her own hand. Her fingers are so thin, like a few dried-out twigs, but when she hooks her finger around his, she grips with surprising force. "Pinky promise, no breaking it, ever." Ethan's voice comes out a little hoarse. Lucy lets go and pulls the rabbit back into her arms, lowering her head, no longer looking at him. But Ethan knows she heard him, every word. He stands up, gives a few final instructions to the nanny and therapist, then turns and walks out of the room. In the hallway, his footsteps quicken, and the warmth in his eyes fades away, bit by bit, replaced by a cold, sharp edge, the kind that comes from rage held back for far too long, finally ready to be unleashed. Secretary Chen's car is already waiting outside. Ethan climbs into the back seat. Derek and 2 security officers climb into the car behind them, and the 2 vehicles pull out of the estate, one trailing the other, heading toward the house he lived in for 7 years. Along the way, Ethan keeps his eyes closed, countless images flashing through his mind. Sophia's gentle smile as she fed him medicine, Jason's concerned look as he brought him water, Mia's innocent voice calling him daddy. These were the very images that once convinced him he was the luckiest man alive. Looking back now, every single frame was a carefully crafted lie. As the car pulls up at the mouth of the alley, Ethan opens his eyes and looks through the window at the familiar 2-story house. Its white exterior walls show patches of wear, and the gardenias in the yard are blooming in full, their fragrance drifting in through the car window. It looks exactly the same as it did 7 years ago. This house was bought with money Sophia made from selling off his jade pendant. The property deed lists her name, and the down payment and mortgage all came out of her account, though of course that money was squeezed out of him in the first place. The moment Ethan pushes open the car door and steps out, the sun breaks free from behind the clouds right on cue, its light sharp enough to make him squint slightly. Dressed simply in a white shirt and dark trousers, sleeves rolled up to his forearms, he looks crisp and composed, nothing like the dazed, slow-moving blind man he played for 7 long years. Derek and 2 bodyguards fall in step behind him, moving in perfect unison, like 3 black walls sliding forward. Ethan doesn't bother with the doorbell. He simply pushes the iron gate open. It lets out a dull clang, shaking loose a few gardenia petals from the bushes nearby. The white petals drift down onto the stone path, scattering like shards of fallen snow. The living room door sits slightly ajar. Jason's voice drifts out, edged with irritation and impatience. Mia, stop watching TV and go put your toys away, or your mom will start nagging again the second she's home. Mia mutters something back. Too quiet to catch, but Ethan doesn't need to hear it clearly to imagine the exact expression on her face, the same one she always saves for him. Unmasked disgust and contempt for her blind father, now likely being aimed at Jason instead. Ethan pushes the door open and steps inside. In the living room, Jason sits on the sofa scrolling through his phone, while Mia sits cross-legged on the rug, hugging a doll and watching TV. Sunlight pours in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the room with a warm, peaceful glow. No one notices Ethan enter, until Jason looks up. The instant he sees Ethan, a flash of shock crosses his face, not because of Ethan's sudden arrival but because of his eyes. The same eyes that have been dull and unfocused for 7 years are now staring straight at him, sharp and clear as freshly sharpened blades. Jason's fingers freeze in place, and his phone slips from his hand, hitting the coffee table. With a dull thud. Your eyes. Jason's voice comes out strangled, as if someone's gripping his throat. Mia turns to look too. The moment she sees Ethan, she instinctively shrinks back, but the brazen defiant look returns to her face almost immediately. In her eyes, this blind father is nothing but a pathetic, useless figure she's free to push around. Even with his eyesight back, that fact hasn't changed a thing. Blind man, what are you staring at? Ethan doesn't even look her way. His eyes stay fixed on Jason, and he advances step by step toward the center of the room, his shoes striking the floor with a slow, deliberate sound. Every step lands like a blow straight to Jason's chest. My eyes healed 7 days ago, the exact same day Mia pushed me down the stairs. The color drains from Jason's face instantly. He shoots to his feet, knee slamming into the corner of the coffee table, pain making him wince, but he doesn't even register it. One thought explodes through his mind, over and over. 7 days. It's already been 7 days. What has Ethan seen in those 7 days? How much has he uncovered? Why didn't you say something sooner? Jason's voice trembles. Ethan doesn't bother answering. Instead, he pulls his phone out of his pocket, opens his photo gallery, and turns the screen toward Jason. The photos show Sophia and Jason locked together in the CEO's office. Every angle clear, every face fully recognizable. Even the clothes scattered across the carpet are captured in sharp detail. Jason's legs give out beneath him, and he collapses back onto the sofa. These past few days, I've seen a great deal. I've watched every single act you and Sophia put on right in front of me. I saw the two of you flirting across the dinner table. I saw every plan the two of you schemed behind my back, including the insurance policy, including the juice you spiked, including every single phone call the night before last when you hired men to kidnap my daughter. Jason's lips quiver. He tries to say something, but his throat seems to close up entirely, and only broken, garbled sounds escape. Mia doesn't fully grasp what the adults are talking about, but she can feel something is wrong. She scrambles up off the floor, running over to Jason and tugging at his sleeve, her voice rising sharp and shrill. Ethan looks down at her, studying her face. This child, the one he loved and cared for over the past 6 years, is now huddled close beside Jason, her eyes filled with nothing but hostility and disdain for him. Her features are an exact match for Jason's, something he could never have seen back then, but now every single detail cuts into his heart, sharp and clear as a blade. Mia, you've known for a long time that he isn't your uncle, haven't you? Mia hesitates for a moment, then sticks out her lip in a pout. Children's words carry no malice, and that is exactly what makes them cut the deepest. Ethan feels no anger, not even sadness. He's long past the point of letting words like that hurt him anymore. He simply nods, as if confirming something he already knew the answer to all along. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps comes from the doorway. Sophia has returned, dressed in a black business suit, her hair pulled back neatly, her makeup flawless. But dark circles are clearly visible under her eyes, and the lines around her mouth have deepened noticeably since last week. The company's ongoing crisis has left her completely overwhelmed. She's barely slept at all. She pushes the door open, and the sight in the living room stops her dead in her tracks. Ethan stands at the center of the room, 3 bodyguards in black uniforms standing behind him. He no longer carries himself like the blind man she knew, the one who needed to grip the wall just to stay upright. His back is straight now, radiating a presence she has never seen in him before, calm, cold, and carrying an authority that seems woven into his very nature. What unsettles Sophia even more are his eyes. Those eyes are watching her now, like a mirror reflecting back every filthy secret she has ever hidden. Ethan! Sophia's voice wavers. She takes an unconscious step forward. Your eyes, when did they? 7 days ago, the day your daughter pushed me down the stairs. The color drains from Sophia's face instantly, matching Jason's. She whips her head around toward Mia. Mia flinches at the ferocity in her mother's eyes, shrinking back behind Jason. You've been pretending all this time. Sophia's voice trembles, though she's still struggling to hold herself together, her grip tightening on her handbag without realizing it. Why didn't you tell me? Ethan counters. Tell you what? A faint, mocking smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. Tell you my eyes had healed, so you and Jason could pick a more discreet place to carry on your affair? Or tell you I'd already found Lucy so you could move first and hide her somewhere even further away. Sophia's pupils contract sharply. The name Lucy, spoken aloud from Ethan's mouth, detonates inside her head like a bomb. She had believed Ethan would never know that child existed, not in this lifetime. She thought it had been done flawlessly, without a single flaw. How could you possibly know? Her voice shakes uncontrollably now. How did I find out Lucy is my real daughter? Is that what you're asking? Ethan finishes the question for her. Or how did I find out you swapped my child for yours and Jason's? Or how did I find out you arranged that car accident 7 years ago? Sophia, which one were you asking about? The living room falls so silent that the ticking of the wall clock is the only sound left. Jason has collapsed against the sofa, limp as a puddle of mud. Mia doesn't fully understand what's happening, but she reads the fear written across the adults' faces, and she can't stop herself from bursting into tears. Her face smeared with tears and snot, sobbing loudly. Sophia stands frozen in place, her lips moving a few times, but no words come out at all. Her mind races, scrambling for a reason, an excuse, anything that could possibly explain all of this away. But she finds nothing. Ethan's eyes burn too bright, leaving her nowhere left to hide. Ethan watches her carefully composed face crumble piece by piece. He feels no satisfaction in it, only a deep, hollow coldness and exhaustion. This woman spent 7 years trapping him in a meticulously woven lie, convincing him he was the luckiest man alive, never realizing how much more he lost than he ever gained. You thought you'd hidden it all so well. That car accident 7 years ago, you had someone hit me, expecting me to die. But I didn't die. I only lost my memory and my sight. You took me out of the hospital and told me you were my fiancée. You told me I was an orphan with no family of my own. You told me you were the only person in the entire world willing to take me in. He takes a step forward. Sophia instinctively steps back, her spine hitting the doorframe. You tricked me out of the only thing of value I had, the jade pendant my father gave me. You sold it for $200 million, and used the money to save the Lane family company from going under. You used that money to buy this house, to build your company, and to turn yourself into Sea Haven City's celebrated businesswoman. And to you, I was never anything more than an insurance policy waiting to mature. Ethan's voice never once rises. If anything, it carries a quiet edge that's somehow more chilling than shouting. The medicine you fed me every single day was never a folk remedy for my eyes. It was a nerve-damaging drug prescribed by your doctor, your first love. You never wanted me to see again. You wanted my mind to grow foggier and foggier, until I became a useless wreck who could barely string a sentence together. That way you'd never have to worry about the day my memory came back. All color drains from Sophia's face, white as paper. The last trace of life leaves her lips. She wants to deny it, to argue back, but Ethan gives her no chance. You assumed I had no family, no background, no power to ever fight back against you. You assumed you'd executed everything flawlessly, that no one would ever uncover the truth. Ethan looks straight into her eyes, his words landing one at a time. But there's one thing you failed to account for. He pulls his phone from his pocket and dials a number, switching it to speakerphone. A man's voice comes through, calm and carrying unmistakable authority. Ethan, have you arrived? I'm here, Dad. The name Richard Hale lands on Sophia like a sledgehammer to the skull. Her legs give out completely, and she slides down the doorframe to the floor. Richard Hale, Sea Haven City's richest man, head of the Hale Group. A name that has held a permanent spot in the top 10 of every Forbes list for years. A man whose levels she could never dream of reaching in her entire lifetime. And Ethan just called him Dad. Sophia's voice scrapes out from between clenched teeth. Every word she manages trembles violently. I'm Richard Hale's only son, the sole heir to the entire Hale family in Sea Haven City. The pendant you sold was passed down from my grandfather to my father, and then from my father to me. It's engraved with the Hale family crest. Any auction house could have traced its provenance. You sold it for $200 million, thinking no one would ever notice, never knowing that transaction had already landed on the Hale family's watch list. Sophia's mind goes completely blank. She remembers 7 years ago the auction house staff asking her about the pendant's provenance. She'd made up some story off the top of her head to brush it off. She had assumed it was simply a valuable antique, expensive but untraceable, never imagining it was the heirloom of Sea Haven City's richest family. For 7 years, my father has been searching for me. After the accident, I vanished. Every lead went cold. Sophia, you hid a living person for 7 years, kept Sea Haven City's richest man searching for 7 years. And you really thought you could walk away from this unscathed? Jason slides off the sofa, his knees hitting the floor with a dull thud. He kneels there, his face ashen, his lips trembling. Suddenly he crawls toward Ethan, grabbing at his pant leg. Ethan, listen to me. All of this was Sophia's doing. She planned every bit of it. She's the one who wanted you hit by that car. She's the one who wanted you drugged. I was forced into it. I swear, I was forced. Ethan looks down at him. This same man who, only days ago, was locked in a kiss with Sophia at the dinner table. This same man who hired strangers to kidnap his 6-year-old daughter. Now he grovels at Ethan's feet like a stray dog with nowhere left to go, pinning every shred of blame on the woman beside him. Ethan repeats the words flatly, forced into it. His tone carries no emotion at all. You abandoned my daughter, left her at an orphanage gate in the middle of winter? Were you forced into that too? You had Sophia swap my daughter for yours, made me raise your child for 6 years without ever knowing? Were you forced into that as well? You hired men to kidnap Lucy, to smuggle her out of the country. Was that forced too? Ethan lifts his foot, and, with no urgency at all, peels Jason's grip off his pant leg. The motion not particularly rough, yet carrying undeniable force. Jason loses his balance and crashes to the floor in a heap, his forehead striking the corner of the coffee table, splitting open a gash. Blood trickles down the bridge of his nose. Jason, whether you were the mastermind or just an accomplice to Sophia, is a question the judge will decide. No need to rush trying to dump the blame right now. Ethan slips his phone back into his pocket and turns toward Derek at the door. Let them in. Derek murmurs something into his earpiece, and a dozen or so people immediately pour in through the front door. Leading the group are 4 lawyers in dark suits, each carrying a heavy case file box. Behind them follow 6 uniformed police officers, led by a woman in her 40s. Mr. Hale. Officer Lee Min nods at him. I'm Lee Min, with the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. We've reviewed all the materials you submitted. The chain of evidence is solid. The arrest warrants have already been approved. Ethan steps aside, gesturing towards Sophia and Jason, both collapsed on the floor. It's them. Officer Lee Min waves a hand, and the officers behind her move in at once, taking hold of Sophia from either side. All the strength seems to have drained out of her body, leaving her limp as dough, only able to remain upright with the officers' support. Sophia, you are suspected of attempted murder, insurance fraud, unlawful detention, and child abuse, tax evasion, commercial fraud, and several other charges. You are hereby placed under arrest in accordance with the law. Officer Lee Min's voice is sharp and decisive, each charge landing like a hammer driving in a nail. Sophia's tears finally fall, though she sheds them in complete silence, tears streaking down one after another, carving 2 pale lines through her makeup. Her lips move, as if trying to say something, but no sound comes out at all. Another officer steps in front of Jason, who is still sprawled across the floor, blood from his forehead now trickling all the way down to his chin, dripping onto the floor drop by drop, a horrifying sight. Jason, you are suspected of attempted kidnapping, intentional harm, child abandonment, harboring a criminal, and several other charges. You are hereby placed under arrest, in accordance with the law. As the officers pull him up, Jason suddenly thrashes wildly, lunging toward Ethan, shouting, Ethan, you can't arrest me. I wasn't the only one who abandoned Lucy. Sophia made me do it. His voice rises into a shrill, piercing shriek, echoing through the entire living room. Terrified, Mia bursts into wailing sobs, throwing herself at Jason's legs and crying out, Daddy, Daddy, don't go. Seeing Mia cry, Sophia finally finds her voice again, calling out hoarsely, Mia, don't be scared, Mommy's here. Ethan's voice cuts her off, cold as if pulled straight from an ice vault. You won't be soon enough. Life in prison, no reduced sentence, no parole. You'll spend the rest of your life behind bars. What exactly do you think you can still do? Sophia's mouth hangs open, like a fish flopped onto the shore, gasping, with no sound left to give. The police lead Sophia and Jason away. Sophia stays silent the entire time, hollow as a walking corpse, as she's escorted into the squad car. The living room falls quiet. Only the sound of Mia's crying remains. She stands alone in the middle of the empty room, surrounded by strangers in black, all adults she doesn't know. Not one of them looks at her, comforts her, or pays her any attention at all. Her crying grows louder and louder, shifting from full-out wailing into hoarse, broken sobs. But still, no one comes to her side. Ethan watches her. This child he loved and cared for over 6 years now stands alone, abandoned, like a forgotten toy left behind. Her tears are real. Her fear is real. But her father is Jason. Her mother is Sophia, and both of them have just been taken away by the police. He and this child share no blood relation at all. Ethan walks over and crouches down to meet her eye to eye. Mia stares back through her sobs, her tear-filled eyes full of confusion. She probably doesn't fully understand what just happened, but she can sense that the man she's always called Daddy, the blind man, isn't the same anymore. Mia, I'm not your father. Your father is Jason. He was just taken away by the police. Your mother, too. Starting today, you'll be sent to live at an orphanage, and arrangements for your care will be handled by the Civil Affairs Department. Mia understands one word clearly, orphanage, and she cries even harder, reaching out to grab at Ethan's shirt. Just like every other time she's thrown a fit, waiting for him to comfort her, pick her up, buy her a toy. But this time, Ethan doesn't reach back. He stands up and turns to the lawyer behind him. Contact the Civil Affairs Department. Handle this child's custody. Matter strictly by the law. Every asset under Sophia's and Jason's names is to be frozen. Her support payments are to be drawn legally from Sophia's personal account. Not a single cent of the Hale family's money is to be used. Ethan takes one last look at Mia, then turns and walks out the door. Outside, the gardenias still fill the yard with their heavy scent. The sun is shining beautifully, the sky a clear, vivid blue. If everything that had just happened weren't so painfully real, Ethan might almost believe he'd simply woken from a nightmare. He stands at the gate, drawing in one deep breath, as if trying to exhale 7 entire years of suffocation all at once. Then he pulls out his phone and texts the nanny. Is Lucy asleep? The reply comes back almost instantly. She just woke up. She's asking for you. A small smile tugs at the corner of Ethan's mouth, the first genuine smile he's had all day. Daddy's coming home right now. He climbs into the car. Derek drives up front, Secretary Chen in the passenger seat, who turns around and hands him a folder. "Sir, this is the complete treatment plan for Lucy that Mr. Hale wanted me to give you. Also, the east wing of the old estate has already been prepared. The children's room has been arranged according to recommendations from professional child psychologists. You can bring Lucy there to stay whenever you're ready." Ethan takes the folder and opens it, revealing a thick stack of documents. The first page is a summary of Lucy's medical examination report, with the most urgent items marked in red ink. Old rib fractures, malformed healing, surgery recommended as soon as possible, or it will affect chest cavity development and cardiopulmonary function. Ethan's eyes freeze on that single line. The words "old fracture" pierced through his heart like a needle. Lucy's ribs had been broken at the age of 3. And not just once. The marks left by fists and rods striking that small body are still tormenting her to this very day, with the potential to affect her health for the rest of her life. "When is the surgery scheduled?" Ethan's voice carries a thread of tension. "The expert team recommends doing it as soon as possible, ideally within this week. Mr. Hale has already reached out to the country's top pediatric orthopedic surgeon. Professor Zhou, flying in from Beijing, will be performing the operation." Ethan nods, tucking the report away, leaning back and closing his eyes. Outside the window, the city blurs past, towering skyscrapers, streams of traffic, looking nothing like the city he remembered from before he lost his memory 7 years ago. For 7 years he lived inside a lie carefully woven by Sophia, believing he was a blind man abandoned by the world, surviving only through the pity of a kind woman. The truth was something entirely different. He was the son of Sea Haven City's richest man, with a daughter who had been stolen from him, and a fortune that had been quietly siphoned away, an entire life that had been rewritten without his knowledge. Now, piece by piece, he intends to take it all back. By the time he arrives back at the villa, Lucy is sitting on the living room rug, a pile of building blocks scattered in front of her. She isn't stacking them, just lining them up, one by one, into a single straight line, each block spaced almost perfectly evenly apart, a repetitive behavior common among children with autistic tendencies. The therapist had explained that this is her way of fighting back against the chaos inside her, using order as a shield. Ethan removes his shoes and walks over quietly, sitting down beside her, careful not to disturb her at all. Once she finishes placing the last block, Lucy turns and glances at him, then lowers her head and tugs at the corner of paper peeking out from his pocket. The drawing he folded up and tucked away that morning, the one with the 2 circles drawn close together. She unfolds it, studies it for a few seconds, then places it beside the straight line of blocks, pointing one small finger at the larger circle on the page, then back at Ethan. "Right, that one's Daddy." A wave of emotion catches in Ethan's throat, his voice thick with feeling. She points to the smaller circle next. "And that one's Lucy." Her finger lingers there on the page for several long seconds, and then she does something that makes Ethan's heart stop cold. She lifts the drawing up and presses it carefully against her chest, holding it like the most precious treasure she owns. Ethan can't hold back any longer. A single tear escapes. He wipes it away quickly with the back of his hand. He can't let her see him cry. The therapist had warned that this could make a traumatized child feel even more unsettled. He clears his throat and speaks as steadily as he can manage. "Lucy, Daddy needs to tell you something. There's a part of your body that isn't quite right, and a doctor needs to help fix it. Just like when one of your toys breaks and Daddy helps fix it for you. The doctor will help fix your body, and afterward you won't hurt anymore, and running around will feel much easier too." Lucy looks up at him, her eyes so much like his own, showing no fear at all, no resistance, only a quiet, almost numb kind of acceptance. She has likely grown used to pain by now, used to having her body handled, touched, hurt without warning. That numbness breaks Ethan's heart far more than fear ever could. "It won't hurt much. Daddy will be right here with you the whole time. I'll be here before you fall asleep, and I'll still be here when you wake up. No one is going to hurt you. No one ever will again." Ethan takes her hand, palm turned upward, letting her small fingers rest against his own. Her fingers shift slightly inside his palm, but she doesn't pull away. 3 days later, Lucy is admitted to Mercy Hospital, a facility funded by the Hale Group. An entire floor is cleared out for her alone, the only patient in residence. Medical specialists fly in from all across the country, and a team of over a dozen experts spends 2 full days conferring on her case. The surgical plan is finally settled, the procedure scheduled for the morning of her 3rd day at the hospital. Before the operation, Lucy must abstain from all food and water. Nothing allowed from the early morning hours onward. Ethan doesn't sleep at all through the night. Sitting at her bedside, holding her small hand, Lucy's sleep is restless, her body turning back and forth, occasionally letting out a faint whimpering sound, as if something terrifying is happening to her in her dreams. At 3 in the morning, Lucy suddenly jolts awake, her entire body snapping upright in bed, curling into the corner, eyes wide open, lips white. Her whole body trembles uncontrollably. She isn't crying, she's breaking down in complete silence. That kind of terror, so deep she dares not even make a sound, breaks Ethan's heart far worse than any loud sobbing ever could. Ethan doesn't touch her. He simply rests his hand on the sheet, within her reach, and whispers gently, "Lucy, it's Daddy. You're safe here at the hospital. No one is going to hurt you." Her eyes slowly come into focus, recognizing him. Her body still trembles, but a little less than before. She reaches out a shaking hand and touches his fingers, then grips his index finger tightly, holding on with surprising strength, like someone drowning, clutching the last piece of driftwood she can find. Suddenly Lucy speaks. Doesn't hurt. Her voice is so faint it's almost inaudible, as if speaking to Ethan, or more likely, telling herself. Lucy doesn't cry, doesn't hurt. Tears rush to Ethan's eyes in an instant, but he fights to hold them back. With his free hand, he gently pats the sheet beside her, not touching her body directly, just tapping the fabric, creating a soft, rhythmic, soothing sound. That's right, Lucy doesn't hurt. Daddy's right here. No one will ever make you hurt again. Lucy, still gripping his finger, slowly settles back down onto the bed. Her eyes stay open the whole time, fixed on Ethan, as if checking again and again that he won't disappear. Ethan stays exactly as he is, perfectly still, letting her watch him, letting her hold on, until the sky outside shifts from pitch black to deep blue and from deep blue to pale gray, until finally, golden sunlight slips in through the gap in the curtains. It's 7 in the morning. A nurse arrives to wheel Lucy to the operating room. She's placed on the gurney, a light blue blanket draped over her body, a small cap fitted over her head. Her eyes stay locked on Ethan the entire time. She doesn't cry, doesn't fuss, eerily calm for a 6-year-old. Ethan holds her hand, walking alongside the gurney all the way to the operating room doors. The red light above flicks on, and a nurse politely stops him. Mr. Hale, this is as far as you can go. Lucy, Daddy will be waiting right outside. Take a nice long sleep, and when you wake up, Daddy will be there, okay? Lucy stares at him for a few seconds, then nods, slowly and gently, the very first time she's responded to his words with a clear, deliberate yes. Ethan lets go of her hand, watching her get wheeled into the operating room. The moment the automatic doors slide shut, his legs finally give way. He leans against the hallway wall, gasping for breath in heavy, uneven gulps. Derek brings over a chair for him. He sits down, both hands pressing into his knees, forehead resting against his palms. The surgery lasts 4 hours, and Ethan sits outside that door for every single one of them, not drinking a drop of water, not moving an inch. Secretary Chen comes by twice, leaving water and food that goes completely untouched. Richard Hale calls. Ethan answers, says only still in surgery, and hangs up. 37 in the morning, the red light above the operating room finally goes out. Ethan shoots to his feet, his knee letting out a sharp crack he doesn't even register. The automatic doors open and the surgeon steps out, pulling off his mask, his face tired but unmistakably relieved. Mr. Hale, the surgery was a success. The malformed sections of her ribs have been corrected. We performed an osteotomy, with internal fixation. Once she recovers, her chest will return to a roughly normal shape. Her physical condition is somewhat weak overall, so her post-operative recovery may take a bit longer than for a typically healthy child. But as long as her nutrition stays on track and rehabilitation goes well, the long-term outlook is good. Ethan's tears finally fall, and this time he doesn't wipe them away, letting them run freely down his cheeks. Thank you, doctor. His voice comes out so hoarse it's barely audible. Don't thank me. That little girl is a fighter. Lucy is wheeled out of the operating room, still unconscious from the anesthesia. Her face is even paler than before, her lips drained of all color, tubes running every which way from her tiny body. Sunk into the oversized hospital bed, she looks even smaller and more fragile than before. Ethan follows the gurney into the post-op recovery room, sitting down at her bedside, holding her unbandaged hand and speaking gently. Lucy, the surgery is over. You're going to get better very soon. Daddy's right here, and I'm not going anywhere. Even deep in anesthesia, Lucy seems to hear his voice. Her brow shifts faintly, her fingers curling unconsciously, hooking around his thumb. Ethan sits there exactly like that, holding her hand from noon until evening, and from evening into the dead of night. Nurses come and go, changing dressings twice, checking her temperature and blood pressure countless times. Ethan never once leaves that chair. A little past 10 that night, Lucy wakes. Her eyes open slowly, staring blankly at the ceiling, before she struggles to turn her head, slowly, with great effort, and finds Ethan there. She doesn't speak, but she does something he will remember for the rest of his life. The corners of her mouth lift, just slightly. It isn't quite a smile, only a faint upward curve so small that anyone not looking closely would miss it entirely. But Ethan sees it. Something slams against his chest hard enough that he can barely breathe. Lucy, you're awake. Does it hurt? Lucy doesn't answer. She simply looks at him, that faint curve still resting at the corner of her mouth, her fingers shifting gently inside his palm. The very first time she has shown anything resembling happiness toward him. By the 3rd day after surgery, Lucy is able to sit up. She leans back against the bed, a small tray table set up in front of her, holding the picture book Ethan bought her. She can't really read it, but she pages through the pictures anyway, with surprising care, turning each page one at a time, as if it's the most important task in the world. Ethan sits beside the bed, peeling her an apple, though his peeling skills are clumsy at best, leaving the apple bumpy and uneven all over. He cuts it into tiny, bite-sized pieces, arranging them in a bowl, each one speared with a toothpick, then sliding the bowl over to her. Lucy glances at the apple pieces, then at Ethan, and picks one up, nibbling at it in small bites. She still eats quickly, but far better than before. At least she's no longer swallowing each piece whole in one go. Does it taste good? Lucy nods, the very first time she's answered one of his questions with a simple nod. Warmth floods through Ethan's chest. He knows full well that Lucy's recovery won't happen overnight. The trauma carved so deep into her bones may take years, maybe even a decade or more, to fully heal. but every small step forward is worth everything he has to give. On the 5th day after surgery, the doctor comes by for rounds, reviews Lucy's recovery, and is clearly pleased. Her wound is healing nicely. Her nutrition is improving. Children recover far faster than adults do. In another couple of days, she'll be able to start walking slowly. Though no running or jumping yet, the ribs will need 2 to 3 months to fully heal. During this period, avoid any intense activity or impact. Ethan notes down every single instruction, as if memorizing the terms of a critical contract. That afternoon, Secretary Chen arrives, carrying news that snaps Ethan instantly alert. Sir, Dr. Foster has been extradited back. He's currently being held at the city detention center as of this afternoon. Police have already completed an initial interrogation. He's confessed to a great deal, and it all lines up with the evidence we have. Ethan's fingers tighten slightly. He's agreed to testify in court. After years hiding out in Southeast Asia, his life there was rough. His mindset now is simple. There's no escaping this anyway. So he'd rather cooperate and try for a lighter sentence. Secretary Chen pauses, lowering his voice. And he's revealed a detail we hadn't uncovered before. Sophia and Jason didn't just swap the children. They also injected Lucy with a sedative. Ethan's pupils contract sharply. In the days right after Lucy was born, Sophia entered the hospital under the pretense of a visit, and had Dr. Foster help clear the nurses out of the room. Then Jason injected Lucy with an overdose of sedative. Their original plan was for Lucy to die, made to look like a natural death. But they miscalculated the dose. The baby didn't die, she only fell into a deep sleep for a long while. Too afraid that trying again would expose them, they switched plans and abandoned her instead. Ethan's hands tremble, not from fear but from rage. It isn't the kind of rage that comes in a sudden burst. It's cold, heavy, suffocating, like a slab of iron pressing down on his chest, stealing every breath. Did Foster explain why they did this? Ethan's voice comes out barely above a whisper, thin and fragile like a violin string about to snap. By the time Eva, Sophia's sister, was pregnant, Jason and Sophia had already secretly rekindled their relationship. So Sophia orchestrated that car accident, sending her own sister and parents into a ravine, killing all three. But once Eva was dead, if Jason married Sophia right away as her widower, it would have raised suspicion. So they devised a far more discreet scheme. Sophia would approach you, blind and amnesiac, posing as your fiancée, adopt Jason's daughter Mia under your name, and quietly dispose of your real daughter in the process. Since you were blind, you'd never see a thing. Secretary Chen's voice stays flat and even, but each word lands on Ethan's heart like a blade, carving deeper with every cut. That way, Jason could keep living in Sophia's house, posing as a grieving widower who never remarried, while the two of them carried on together, under the perfect cover of legitimacy. Ethan closes his eyes, drawing a slow breath. What else did Foster confess? He helped arrange contact with the driver who caused the original crash, a truck driver buried in debt from loan sharks. Sophia paid him $500,000 to ram into the car you were driving. But the driver hit too hard. He thought he'd actually killed you, and panicked, fleeing the scene. Sophia tracked him down later and paid him a sum to keep his mouth shut, then sent him abroad. He's currently overseas. Police are now coordinating with Interpol to bring him in. Ethan's mind drifts back to that crash 7 years ago. He had been driving to the airport at the time, on his way to pick up an important client. A truck slammed into the side of his car without warning, sending it rolling over and over, his head striking the window before everything went dark. When he woke up, he was lying in a hospital bed, completely blind, his memory entirely wiped clean, with only one person at his side, a woman claiming to be his fiancée. Sophia told him he had no family, no friends, that he was an orphan abandoned by the entire world. She held him as she wept, swearing she'd care for him for the rest of her life. And he believed every word, because he had no memory of anyone else to compare her to. Get me everything on that driver. I want to know exactly who he is and where he is right now. Secretary Chen pulls a sheet of paper from the folder and hands it over. Ethan glances at it briefly, then folds it and slips it into his pocket. One more thing, sir. Mr. Hale asked me to inform you that the liquidation of the Lane Group's assets has begun. Every property, vehicle, company share, and bank account under Sophia's name has been frozen. The house where you lived for 7 years is registered under your name, so it falls outside the freeze entirely. What would you like done with it? Sell it. I don't want a single thing left from those 7 years. Donate the proceeds to a children's welfare fund. Understood. After Secretary Chen leaves, Ethan stands in the hallway for a long while, golden evening light pouring in through the window, stretching his shadow across the white wall, looming like a silent giant. He turns and heads back into the hospital room. Lucy sits on the bed, hugging the plush rabbit, eyes fixed on the window. The fading sunlight washes over her face, casting a faint gold glow across her pale skin. At the sound of the door, she turns her head and sees Ethan. The corner of her mouth curves upward again, the smile a touch clearer than before. It's still faint and gentle, but Ethan sees it perfectly. Lucy, would you like Daddy to read you a story? He sits down beside her bed and picks up the picture book, opening it to the first page. Lucy looks at the illustrations, then back at Ethan, then slowly leans her body toward him, her shoulder grazing his arm so faintly it's barely there at all. Ethan stays perfectly still, afraid that any movement might make her pull away. He holds that exact position, turning the page and beginning the story. Once upon a time there was a little rabbit, who lived in a very, very dark burrow. It was too afraid to come out, because the world outside was so vast. It was afraid of getting lost, afraid of meeting the big bad wolf. Lucy listens quietly, eyes locked on the illustrations, her body resting against his arm, slowly letting her full weight settle in. Ethan's voice stays calm and steady, the pace of his storytelling neither too fast nor too slow, flowing through the room like a quiet, gentle stream. Outside, the sun sinks lower bit by bit, the sky shifting from gold to orange, from orange to rose, and finally to deep blue, stars beginning to flicker on one by one. By the time the story ends, Lucy has already drifted off, her body leaning against his arm, her breathing slow and steady, that faint, barely there smile still resting on her lips. Ethan looks down at her, gazing for a long, long while, then leans in and presses the softest kiss to her forehead. "Good night, Lucy. Daddy loves you." She doesn't hear it, but that's all right. She'll hear it many, many more times, so many times that she'll never have reason to doubt it again. A week later, Lucy's stitches are removed. After examining her, the doctor confirms her recovery is going beautifully and clears her to go home to rest, with regular follow-up checkups scheduled. Ethan brings Lucy to the east wing of the old Hale family estate, a place equipped with a professional care team, a child psychologist, and a warm, safe room designed especially for her. Lucy stands frozen the moment she steps inside. The walls are painted a soft blue, decorated with stars and moons. Soft bedding printed with little rabbits covers the bed. A row of stuffed animals sits neatly arranged along the windowsill, as if waiting just for her. A thick rug covers the floor, scattered with picture books and building blocks. Sunlight floods in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the room with brightness and warmth, like a home wrapped entirely in love. Lucy stands at the doorway, clutching her plush rabbit, staring at it all without moving for a long time. Ethan crouches down to meet her eye level. "Lucy, this is your room. You'll be living here from now on. Everyone here will only ever be kind to you." Lucy walks slowly into the room, stepping onto the rug, walking to the windowsill, looking over each stuffed animal. She reaches out and touches each one gently on the head, one by one, then turns back toward Ethan, her lips parting slightly, as if she wants to say something, though in the end she doesn't. But she does something instead. She places her plush rabbit among the row of toys, settling it side by side with them. Ethan understands exactly what this means. She's accepted the room, accepted the toys, accepted this place as home. She doesn't cry. She simply smiles, soft and faint, but a smile all the same. On the second night after moving in, Lucy sleeps through the entire night for the first time without a single startled awakening. On the monitor, the nanny watches her shift positions a few times, but there's no crying, no curling up, no trembling at all. At one point in her sleep she rolls over, and wraps her arms around the plush rabbit, burying her face into its soft belly, sleeping deeply and peacefully. Ethan hears this news while eating breakfast in the dining room. He sets down his chopsticks and draws a long, deep breath, then lifts his cup and takes a sip of water. It's warm, sliding down his throat, spreading warmth all the way down. What's on the schedule today? At 10 this morning, prosecutors are coming to review the details of Dr. Foster's testimony. At 2 this afternoon, the legal team will brief you on progress with the Lane Group's asset liquidation. At 7 this evening, Mr. Hale would like to have dinner with you. He says there's something he'd like to discuss. Ethan nods. Have the lawyers keep a close eye on Foster's case. His testimony is the linchpin of the entire case. There's no room for error. Already underway, sir. There's also news from Interpol. The driver responsible for the crash has been located, and extradition proceedings are already in motion. He's expected to be returned to the country within 2 weeks. Ethan's chopsticks pause for just a moment, then resume picking up food, the motion perfectly natural, as if he'd just heard something entirely trivial. But Secretary Chen notices the knuckles of his hand turn faintly white around the chopsticks. Half a month later, this has become one of the most closely watched cases Sea Haven City has seen in years. On the day of the trial, dozens of news outlets crowd outside the courthouse, cameras trained on every face that comes and goes. Ethan skips the main entrance entirely, slipping straight into the courthouse through the underground garage. He takes a seat in the front row of the gallery, with Richard Hale beside him. At 62 years old, Richard's hair has gone gray, but his vigor remains sharp and undiminished. Dressed in a tailored dark suit, he sits with perfect posture. He glances over at his son, and reaches over to give his arm a single silent pat. At the defendant's bench, Sophia sits in an orange prison uniform, her hair cropped short, no makeup at all, her face drained of every trace of color. Her eyes sunk deep into hollow sockets, her entire frame shrunken and thin, nothing like the polished, triumphant businesswoman she was just 2 weeks earlier. Her eyes drift across the gallery and land on Ethan. Her pupils contract slightly before she quickly looks away. Jason sits at a separate defendant's bench, his face ashen, his lips cracked and dry, the gash on his forehead from that day with the coffee table now scabbed over, leaving behind a dark reddish scar. His eyes dart away constantly, unable to meet anyone's gaze, least of all Ethan's. The prosecutor takes nearly 20 minutes to read out the indictment, each charge, each fact backed by detailed, irrefutable evidence, every piece interlocking with the next, forming an iron chain that binds Sophia and Jason firmly to their bench. Sophia's lawyer attempts a plea of innocence, arguing insufficient evidence and unclear facts, but the judge gives little room for that argument. The evidence is simply too solid. When the first key witness takes the stand, the entire mood of the courtroom shifts. When bailiffs lead Dr. Foster forward, a quiet ripple of murmurs spreads through the gallery. He's dressed in a gray prison uniform, his hair gray and unkempt, deep wrinkles etched into his face, making him look more than a decade older than he actually is. He sits down in the witness chair, both hands trembling uncontrollably on his knees. He testifies for more than an hour. With each detail he reveals, the prosecutor produces matching evidence, every piece fitting his testimony like a perfect puzzle. When he reaches the part about injecting Lucy with a sedative, someone in the gallery breaks down crying. A young female journalist. She covers her mouth, but the tears won't stop falling. Ethan doesn't cry at all. His expression remains calm from start to finish, still as stagnant water. Only the white-knuckled grip on his armrest betrays anything at all. During the final statement, Sophia rises to her feet, and in a hoarse, barely audible voice says, "I plead guilty." Jason follows with the same words. "I plead guilty too." The court adjourns, with sentencing scheduled for a later date. By the time they exit the courthouse, the sky has nearly turned dark. Ethan stands on the steps, watching the setting sun paint the entire city a warm shade of orange. Richard walks beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder and pressing down firmly. "Ethan, let's go home. Lucy's waiting for you." Ethan nods, climbing into the car, leaning back, closing his eyes. Outside the window, the city's lights flicker on one by one, forming what looks like a flowing river of stars. By the time he arrives back at the old estate, Lucy is sitting on the living room rug, playing with puzzle pieces alongside the therapist. The moment she sees Ethan walk in, she sets down the piece in her hand and rises to her feet, taking 2 steps toward him. Only 2 steps, but it's the very first time she's ever walked toward him on her own. Ethan crouches down, and opens his arms wide but doesn't lean forward to meet her. He simply crouches there, letting her decide whether to come the rest of the way. Lucy stops, staring at his open arms, hesitating for a few seconds, then walks slowly, step by step, straight into his embrace. Ethan wraps his arms around her with the gentlest touch he can manage, as if holding something fragile and priceless. Lucy's body tenses for a moment, then slowly, gradually relaxes, until finally she buries her face against the curve of his shoulder. Ethan closes his eyes, resting his chin on the top of her head, feeling her small, warm body pressed against his chest. Her heartbeat flutters like a frightened bird at first, but it slowly steadies, settling into a calm, steady rhythm. The living room falls quiet, with only the crackle of burning wood in the fireplace filling the silence. The therapist quietly slips out of the room, the nanny following close behind, leaving only the two of them. "Lucy, Daddy went somewhere today, to make sure the people who hurt you were handed over to the police, and they'll never be able to hurt you again." Lucy doesn't respond, but her arms slowly, gradually wrap around Ethan's neck, holding on tightly, as if confirming he's truly real, and that he won't vanish. Ethan's tears finally fall, silent and steady, dripping into Lucy's hair. This time he doesn't wipe them away. 3 days later, the court hands down its verdict. Sophia, convicted on multiple charges, is sentenced to life in prison, stripped of all political rights for life, with the full confiscation of her personal assets. Jason, also convicted on multiple charges, receives 20 years in prison, 5 years deprivation of political rights, and partial confiscation of his assets. In the moment the verdict is read, Sophia stands at the bench wearing an expression Ethan has never seen on her before. Not fear, not regret, but a hollow, complete collapse. As if every last thing inside her has been emptied out, leaving nothing behind but an empty shell. Jason declares right there in court that he intends to appeal, but his own lawyer privately admits to Ethan's legal team that the appeal is nothing more than a last desperate gasp. The chain of evidence is far too complete. There's no realistic chance the verdict gets overturned on appeal. Ethan doesn't even attend the sentencing. Instead, he sits in Lucy's room, playing blocks with her. Today, she's built an impressively tall tower, using over 20 blocks, the tallest structure she's ever made. Once she finishes, she looks at the tower, then at Ethan, and then reaches out and knocks the whole thing over. The blocks tumble and scatter across the floor with a clatter. Ethan freezes for a moment, then breaks into a smile. Ordinary children build towers specifically to knock them down, finding joy and a sense of control in the act of destroying what they've made. Lucy had never once knocked down anything she'd built before. She only ever lined her blocks into neat straight rows, never breaking the pattern, never changing it, because she had no concept of control at all, only the instinct to obey. This is the first time she has ever deliberately destroyed something of her own creation. "Wow, Lucy, that's amazing. You built such a tall tower." Ethan claps theatrically. She looks at him, the corner of her mouth curving upward again. The smile this time noticeably wider than ever before. Warmth floods through Ethan's chest, as if the sun itself were shining directly on his heart. Half a month later, Ethan receives a letter from prison. His name is scrawled across the envelope in hurried, uneven handwriting, the kind of writing left by someone in unbearable distress. He opens the envelope to find a single sheet of paper inside, every inch of it crammed with handwriting, written in Sophia's own hand. "Ethan, I don't know if you'll even bother reading this letter. Maybe you'll throw it away the second you see it. Maybe you'll burn it. But there are some things I need to say regardless. Because if I don't say them, I think I might truly lose my mind. The worst thing I've ever done in my life wasn't arranging that crash. It wasn't swapping the children, and it wasn't drugging you. It was never once pausing before any of it happened to actually think about what I was doing. I wasn't born a bad person. I had dreams once. I had a conscience once. There were nights I couldn't sleep, sick with myself. But every single time I chose the easier road. Lying was easier than telling the truth. Hurting someone was easier than helping them. Deceiving a blind man was easier than facing my own conscience. I thought I had won. I had money, a company, a man who loved me by my side, a beautiful daughter. I thought that as long as you stayed blind, stayed a fool, I could keep living this way forever. But you got better. Your eyes healed. Your memory returned. And the man I once shaped however I pleased became someone I can no longer even look up to. Ethan, I'm not writing this to beg for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing this letter to tell you a few things. First, I was the mastermind behind that crash. Jason never knew I'd hired someone to hit your car. I only told him I'd arranged for an accident. Without telling him the specifics, he believed it was meant to look like a minor accident, just enough to injure you, to make the insurance claim go smoother. He never knew I intended for you to be killed outright. On this one thing, what he told you was partly true. Second, I didn't sell that jade pendant in its entirety. I had a small piece cut from the middle and hidden away somewhere. That fragment still carries the Hale family crest. It might mean something to you. I've written down where it's hidden, on the back of the envelope. Third, the accident that killed my sister and our parents was also arranged by me. Jason never knew. He believed it was a genuine accident. My sister was pregnant with Jason's child, and if that baby had been born, it would have ruined any future Jason and I might have had together. So I had her killed. Even as I write this, I'm not sure what else there is left to say. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I only ask that you believe I'm not writing this to lighten my own guilt. I'm writing it because I'm dying. Yesterday I collapsed in my cell. They took me for tests and the doctors found a malformation in one of the vessels in my brain. It could rupture at any moment. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe next year, but I will die from it. I didn't want to die carrying all of this with me. Not for your sake, for my own. Ethan, you are a good man. Lucy is fortunate to have found you. I wish you both happiness. Final words, Sophia. Ethan sits in silence for a long while after finishing the letter. He folds it carefully and places it in a drawer, not throwing it away, not burning it. He has no desire to forgive her, but no desire to hate her either. Hatred is exhausting and he has carried it for far too long already. He doesn't want to keep carrying it. He picks up the envelope, turns it over, and finds an address written on the back, an old family house, long since abandoned. He sends Secretary Chen to have someone search the place. Sure enough, in a crack between bricks near the old stove, they find a small fragment no bigger than a fingernail, half of the Hale family crest carved into its surface. Ethan holds the small piece of jade in his palm, feeling its smooth, cool weight. This was the gift his father once gave him, something he wore close to his heart since childhood, the only physical thread tying him back to the life he had before. Though only a fragment remains, at least it has finally come home. A week later, news arrives from the prison. Sophia has suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage and been rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Ethan receives the call while sitting with Lucy through one of her rehabilitation sessions. Under the therapist's guidance, Lucy works through a set of simple stretching exercises meant to help her ribcage regain flexibility after the healing process. She works at it with full focus, beads of sweat forming on her brow, but she doesn't make a single complaint. Ethan ends the call and turns to the therapist. I need to step out for a moment. He heads straight to the hospital, where Sophia lies in the ICU, tubes running through her body, bandages wrapped around her head, her face ashen and gray, her lips tinged blue, breathing sustained entirely by a ventilator. The doctors have already confirmed brain death, only the machines are keeping her basic vital signs going. Ethan stands outside the ICU's glass window, looking in at the woman who once occupied 7 years of his life. She is no longer the polished, confident businesswoman she once was, nor the gentle, devoted wife who once fed him medicine and tucked him into bed. She is simply a stranger now, lying in a hospital bed, slipping toward death. He isn't entirely sure what he feels in that moment. After 5 minutes he turns and walks away. Stepping outside through the hospital doors, the sun shines down warmly. The sky a vivid blue, the breeze cool and pleasant against his face. He draws a deep breath, exhaling 7 full years of suffocating weight at last. He pulls out his phone and texts the nanny. Did Lucy finish her rehab session today? All done. She's having fruit right now. She asked when you'll be back. A smile lifts the corner of Ethan's mouth. Tell her daddy's on his way. He climbs into the car, with Secretary Chen seated up front, who hands him a document. Sir, this is the Hale Group's strategic plan for next quarter. Mr. Hale would like you to take a look and share your thoughts with him directly. Ethan takes the document and opens it. The first page outlines a feasibility study on establishing a child mental health foundation under the Hale Group's name. He pauses, then flips to the final page, where he finds a handwritten line from his father. Ethan, I'd like to establish a foundation in Lucy's name to support abused children. What do you think? Ethan's eyes sting with sudden warmth, but this time he doesn't cry. He simply smiles, picking up a pen to write a line of his own beneath it. Dad, this is a wonderful idea, but I'd like to suggest one change. Don't use Lucy's name, just use Hale. She doesn't need anyone's pity. What she needs is to be treated like an ordinary child. He closes the document and hands it back to Secretary Chen. Tell my father I agree. I'll go over the details with him later. Outside the window, the city blurs past in a rush. Ethan leans back, closing his eyes. The image of Lucy during her rehab session today rising in his mind, biting her lip in concentration, sweat beading on her forehead, but her eyes shining bright. Not the brightness of fear, not the sharp edge of wariness, but a vivid living spark he has never once seen in her eyes before, laced with the faintest hint of stubborn determination. It is the look of a child fighting, with everything she has, to live like an ordinary little girl. Ethan thinks to himself, the greatest achievement of his entire life isn't bringing down Sophia. It isn't reclaiming the Lane Group's assets. It isn't even reclaiming his place as heir to the Hale family. It's putting that spark of light back into Lucy's eyes. The car pulls up at the gates of the old estate, and as Ethan steps out, sunlight settles warmly across his shoulders. He walks through the courtyard, past the garden, and pushes open the living room door, where Lucy sits on the rug, carefully fitting a puzzle piece into place. At the sound of the door, she looks up, and seeing Ethan, her mouth curves upward into a clear, unmistakable smile. A real one, full and genuine. She rises to her feet, running 2 quick steps toward him and throwing herself into his arms. Ethan wraps his arms around her, holding her tightly, as if holding the entire world. The fireplace crackles warmly in the living room, sunlight streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, washing over the two of them, casting their shadows side by side across the floor, one large, one small, pressed close together, like a single whole unbreakable shape. Ethan leans down and whispers softly into Lucy's ear, his voice barely above a breath, but every word lands with the weight of stone, settling into the silence with quiet finality. Lucy, Daddy's taking you home. And with that, 7 long years of darkness finally come to a close, while the light that truly belongs to them is only just beginning.